Okay, so today I'm going to show you something that I started. As I was saying before in previous videos, I'm a part of the group, Jennibellie. She's on the website where there are monthly challenges, and she tells us what is the challenge at the beginning of each month. I don't always do it, but I do it when I feel it. The challenge this month was to find a page on a previous journal that we like the most. So she suggested that we find a page in 2016 because she found her page on a journal she made in 2016, but I didn't make much in matter of journaling in 2016, so I went back to a older journal that I already showed you before. It is actually this page. This page, I'm sorry, because it's in two parts, so it's not easy for me to show it to you, but I will show you the detail. This page is, I think, what represents the best my own style, I would say. It reminds me a lot of the 60s, 70s when I was a child, very close to how I used to draw when I was a child. Well, maybe I draw better now, but it reminds me my childhood and especially that period. And I wanted to recreate a page like that because everything is in it: drawing, painting, collaging, all kinds of mixed media, and I like that. That is really typically what I like the most. So I also like the freshness of the page. Yes, it's clean, it's joyful. I wanted something joyful, and I started redoing a page like that, but I will show you also the difficulties. So first I wrote in a kind of lettering which was usual in the 60s, and I even did it even more like the 60s on the new page. I used here and here, actually I was wondering what I used. Obviously I used some crayons or pencils, colored pencils, or maybe pastels, but underneath I have the feeling that I used or some watercolors or some ink, because we can see the edge of the color. That is typical of ink or watercolors. I'm not sure. I did that a very long time ago, probably between 2002 and 2005, something like that, so it's old. So I drew the woman, I lined it with some ink. I used some sequins, as you can see, and some fabric. This fabric is really from the 60s. It belonged to my mother. We used to have charms like that and linen for the bed, but also I think that my mother wore a dress with this fabric. It's some cotton. This comes from a skirt from the 70s. I remember my mother was wearing it. That is some lace here and here from underwears of mine. A piece of silk that I kept, against sequins. Oh, that comes from this, and this comes from, how we call that, underpants of my ex-husband. I don't know how we call it, boxers. That was also another skirt, the same like this one, but in burgundy, from the 70s too. The shape of the dress reminds me a dress that my mother had. Oh, that comes from a pashmina that I have. I found the sea in the street. It's some metal that I glued here. I see that there is some liner, transparent liner here. And that was a Christmas fabric that I had. This was a business card from a store that I visited before leaving Paris 2 years before. She's an artist, and she had, I don't know if she still has it, a store, but I liked the face. And this is another business, no, a sticker that I probably received by mail, USA. it was probably on the envelope. Another fabric with polka dots that I had, that is some yogi tea. These are stamps from Singapore, which are still on the envelope, and I have no idea why I have these stamps, because I know nobody in Singapore, so I don't know. Some material, another material, you know this kind of material. I like to add textures in my collages and on my journal. Some wool. I liked adding wool here, especially that I used to crochet when I was a child at that period, and my mother too, so it reminds me that. The flower, I glued it, but I also stapled it. Probably I was afraid that it wouldn't stay. There is here some velvet. It was some velvet that I used to make a scarf. I was painting on scarves during a while, and that was a remnant of this velvet. Yeah, that's basically it. The envelope with stamps, yes, I stapled it, probably because I was afraid that it wouldn't stay. And I have no idea what is this color. Maybe watercolor, maybe some water-soluble crayon, that's possible. You see, I have some blue which arrived here and made like a drop. So obviously I used something liquid underneath. So or watercolors or ink, one or the other. So that was my model where I started from, and I wanted to redo that. So the point is not to redo exactly the same thing, of course, but what we must copy, it's not exactly the same thing. We must copy rather the feeling of the page. I think that's what Jennibellie meant. Anyway, it's how I understood it. So I wanted to go in the same direction, but even more accentuated to the 60s, 70s. So I started, I'm not done yet, as you can see, here and here. What I wanted is that the woman is on one page. So fortunately, my journal I'm working on here is bigger than the previous one. So it allowed me to put the woman just on one page, because it's annoying to have a part of the leg on the second page. And I changed a little the dress. It's not exactly the same. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you. What I did is that I drew the dress like that on is it like this or like, no, it was like this, on how we call that, tracing paper, transparent paper. And it allowed me to cut the dress like when you are sewing a dress. It's exactly the same. You do that. Usually you let some space for the hem, some edge, but I didn't here because I'm not doing a hem, so I just did it a little slightly bigger than the tracing, the drawing, as you can see, to be sure that it goes everywhere. And basically the dress will come like that. But I didn't glue it yet because I want first to paint her skin, because I don't want to take the risk to damage the fabric. I used some watercolor here, and it's not a good idea because I started on some gesso, and you see how it's smudged. It's not awful. I can still come back with some purple, or here some more green, but it smudges, so it's not the perfect paper. Watercolors really need some watercolor paper, but okay. But then I must really do the skin, the hair, shoes, bags. I put some green here, but for I don't know what reason it doesn't want to appear. I came at least 3 times. That's weird. And here it's some Posca, and it's a Sharpie, a silver Sharpie. But I'm not so satisfied with the silver, so maybe I will come back with something else. I'm not sure. And here Of course, I don't have twice the same business card, but I decided that I withdrew the face and that I would change what was written, because it was written Missia Rêve. It's the name of the store of the woman, and I wrote something which made me think of that. It's mission, dream, or dream, mission, because rêve in French means dream. So I made the face, which will look like the other one, but not exactly, more like my style. And for the rest, I will improvise, because yes, the conclusion of this exercise is that I don't like so much redoing something. I always knew that I was not the kind of copying or reproducing the same thing, even in the same spirit. I think that I really like journaling only if it's improvised and spontaneous. And here it's the contrary of improvised and spontaneous. So I will do the basics the same, but when it will come for the details, the decor here and decor here, I will go with my guts, because otherwise it's really annoying to do exactly the same thing. And actually, Jennibellie doesn't tell us to do exactly the same thing. She tells us to decide what we want to keep and what we want to change. And I wanted to keep the spirit of the page, but then I want to go to something more improvised, spontaneous, but by staying in the style of the 60s, 70s. So I'm not done yet. I thought that I would have finished for this video, but obviously I'm not, because it takes much more time than I thought, especially that the day is becoming dark very soon these days, and very quickly I don't see anything. And I have to work, just a detail, as everybody. So I try to do that outside of my work, which is not always easy, but I will continue, and it will be done, hopefully next week, if not, probably the week after. I must do a little each day, and at a point it will be done. But so far so good. I'm rather happy with the choice of the fabric, which is, by the way, from the 60s too, which belonged to my mother too, which was exactly the same collection as the other one. So I'm very happy with that. I also chose where in the fabric to cut, because I absolutely wanted to have these orange flowers. But it's going to be very nice with this background. And I will use some big sequins here, a paint and sequins to glue here. Here is what I've done so far. Oh yes, I've done something else. I've done this. So that was a cereal box, as you can see. I didn't do the other side yet. And I used some paper scraps. Scrap papers, I don't know how we say, where I painted on them. It was pieces of Trader Joe bags. I painted on them, cut them, stenciled them, and I kept them. I had no idea what to do with that, and I wanted to use them on this. This is a craft paper that I bought, these two. That was a photocopy of something that was in a kit, paper, all kind of paper. Oh, that is a paper dolly, and I did that because I thought that it would be a cover for a journal that I would make myself, but I had really the bad idea of using some glue stick, and above that putting some Mod Podge. Don't do that, not good. It's better really to put some glue, some Mod Podge or another glue, PVA glue, underneath and on the top, because really the glue stick, it's good if you have thin paper to glue, but if it's thick like that, not good. at all. So I will come back with all this. I will keep you posted, of course. Okay, I see you very soon, very soon. Bye bye, bye bye.